It is Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. Welcome. As I always say, this is the best time in history to be growing a company. So, what are we going to do about it today? I have a number of great articles to share with you. First up, Jeremy Connell-Waite shares his 9 principles of great storytelling and a whole lot more. So, definitely worth a watch. Then, Challenger Brands Unite. There's a lot of discussion out there how market leading brands have a number of advantages over challenger brands. Does that mean they stay as the market leader? I share a couple of articles that bring that into question. Then, is there a bright spot for SaaS? I share an article from Sofia Faustino from ChartMogul that shares some good data related to SaaS. And then finally, I share a couple of posts from founders who didn't quite make it and what lessons they learned and what they're going to do next time. All right. All right, let's get started with Jeremy Connell-Waite's post on his 9 principles of great storytelling. And this is cool. He shares his 9 principles in this post, but he also created this whole experience around how to tell better stories called betterstories.org. And so it's super cool. A lot of information out there about how to tell better stories. And people probably think I'm crazy when I talk so much about storytelling, especially since I'm like literally the worst storyteller in the world. Just ask my wife. I'm really bad at it, but it's so critical. And it's not just in terms of building your brand. It works at so many different levels. We've sat in a lot of different board meetings, and the thing that's often missing, like every board presentation has data, every board presentation has bullet points. But the thing that's so often missing, and the thing that really makes a compelling board presentation, is the narrative, is the story that's being told. I'm not talking like you start off by saying like once upon a time in our company, but the narrative is so critical in a board meeting. And that's the thing that's often missed. But it's not just board meetings. It's, when you're doing your sales, you want to make sure that there's a narrative there. It's your marketing efforts. You want to make sure there's a narrative there. And that's one of the reasons why founder-led growth is so successful, because it's a narrative. You think about like Adam Robinson and his recent experience with 6 Sense, like that's a classic story being told, and then there's some drama associated with it. So everyone's following along, everyone's engaged because it's a story being told. And that's what founders are doing by posting, by founder-led growth, is that they're sharing this story that gets people engaged. In fact, I was just watching a video by Les Benet, and he was talking about the 3 principles that he shared, which one is physical availability, 2 is mental availability, and 3 is emotional connection. And storytelling is a great way to develop mental availability and emotional connection. And so people got to utilize this more. So I appreciate Jeremy sharing his 9 principles of a great story. So let's just take a look at these real quick. First up, better stories are transformational. Second, better stories capture your attention. Third, better stories tell the truth. Fourth, better stories have measurable outcomes. Fifth, better stories are emotional. 6, better stories use strong verbs and short sentences. 7, better stories are surprising. 8, better stories are understandable. And 9, better stories inspire action. And so he lays out these 9 principles. And if you go back and relate it to the cases I just presented, like what are you doing in sales? What are you doing presenting to the board? How are you building your brand story? Think about these 9 principles and how they could fold into the narrative you're telling there. And so you want to make sure that you incorporate these. I think these are great points, like telling the truth, capturing attention, the emotional connection. All these things, if you just have that mindset about how you can tell a story in your communication, it will resonate with people. When they go to make a decision to purchase, they'll have that emotional connection. The story will allow you to build that mental availability. And so I really encourage you to take a look at betterstories.org. I appreciate Jeremy sharing this. And let's all go out there and tell better stories, even though I'm terrible at it. But I'm going to try to use these principles to get better. All right, next up, I want to talk about challenger brands. One of the things I've been reading a lot about lately is how the leading brand in a market has an advantage, whether it's double jeopardy or the need to just continuously advertise. Like, these are assets that the leading brand, people with, well funded, have an opportunity to do that maybe challenger brands don't, regardless of size, whether it's a startup all the way through, say, 10, 15, 50 million ARR. You can still be a challenger brand. You may not have the assets that the leader has. And so if you look at some of these things, it can make you frustrated. It can make you think, oh, there's no opportunity here because these leading companies have such an advantage. And they do. I'm not disagreeing that they don't have this advantage because of their size. But if we take a look at some of the data, you will see the opportunities out there. So don't get discouraged. Keep plugging away. Keep doing what you're doing. Build great products that meet a need. All right, I'm going to start off here with Neal OGrady's post. And the biggest thing I want to emphasize here is that and this was shocking to me when I first read it, 52% of Fortune 500 companies in 2000 were out of business by 2020. So you talk about the companies that are leaders, that have the assets available that are discussed. It's companies in the Fortune 500, and yet 52% of them were out of business in 20 years. And so who's replacing them? Brands that were smaller, brands that did something more interesting, that served a need better. And so that opportunity is there. Just because there's a leader in your space doesn't mean, like I said, that the die is cast here. There's tons of opportunity out there. And so even though they do have these advantages, don't get frustrated by it. Keep plugging away at it. And the other thing I wanted to share was this video, and this one's from Visual Capitalist. And you probably have seen this before, but I just find this is amazing. This is the same kind of thing, but with regard to the most popular website since 1993. And just watch how it changes. So AOL, most popular in 1993. Yahoo's growing. Netscape. I mean, all these things from my past are GeoCities, man, web crawler, all these things excite. So these are the brands. You can see how they're growing and falling. And there's so much transition here. So even though these are the leaders, they have all those advantages that are talked about. It's changing. I mean, AOL's still in place in 1998. Yahoo's still second. MSN pulls up here. About.com. Man, I used to love About.com. All right, Yahoo gets the top spot here. Man, back in the day, you thought Yahoo was going to be there forever. And so it's interesting. MSN second. AOL's fall. Oh, there's Google. Google showed up on here. Oh, Amazon. Let's see what happens next. It's like a race, like watching a horse race. All right, Yahoo's still, and look at it, they're just crushing it. But look at Google starting to grow. It's amazing. Oh, they overtook MSN. MySpace, look at that. It's growing quickly. It's jumping up there. Amazon's still down there. Oh, MySpace gets to number 3, falls down again. Let's see what happens. Ask.com. Oh, man, all these things. Oh, look at YouTube just flying up there. Facebook, man, it's just flying up there. Those two grew so quickly. It's amazing. But Yahoo's still up there. But it's 2010. That was only 70. Oh, Google just overtook Yahoo. So how did Google do that? They just put out a better product. They really did. Oh, there goes YouTube. There's Facebook. So all the brands that were the lead in the beginning are all now gone from the top 3. There's Wikipedia. In a second here, Google's just going to start crushing it. It's amazing, honestly. There's Twitter showing up here for the growing. Look at Google just sprinting ahead. 2016. I mean, it looks like Facebook and YouTube are shrinking, but it's actually Google's just outpacing them so quickly. I mean, it's amazing. Look at YouTube's presence. And actually, that's a good point. A lot of B2B brands don't do a good job with YouTube. It's definitely an opportunity out there. YouTube does not a very good job of servicing business content. And there it is in the end. Google's still in the lead. YouTube number 2, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram's on there, Wikipedia. But how different does that list look like from 1993? So despite all these advantages, this world's changing. There's so much opportunity for challenger brands. So keep that in mind. There's been a lot of negative news lately related to SaaS and SaaS growth. So when I saw this article from Sofia Faustino, from ChartMogul. I just wanted to share it because she says there is a glimmer of growth. Great news, glimmers of growth expand and emerge across most quartiles. ChartMogul's April benchmark data shows that stabilization continues for the SaaS industry. So that is good to hear. A couple of the points I wanted to highlight within this is April recorded the highest growth rate since the end of 2022. So that's over a year for companies in the 8 to 15 million ARR range. And what's really interesting for me, in April, new business picked up for the ARR ARPA segments mentioned above. With net revenue retention and customer retention rates practically unchanged, the data suggests that new business acquisition was the main driver of growth. So it'd be interesting to dive more into that, but it's good to hear that's coming from new business acquisition because there's a limit to how much you can grow your business via expansion. I mean, obviously you want to create the best experience and do what you can from an expansion standpoint, but there is a limit. So seeing that new business is coming in the SaaS space is great to hear. All right, I want to close out this video with a couple of articles from founders who tried with businesses and didn't quite succeed in the lessons they learned. So starting off with David Walsh, he says, he kicks this post off by saying he spent 12 months creating the perfect product. He optimized, he obsessed over tiny details, and then he launched it. And it was crickets. Nobody cared. And the reason was the product wasn't relevant and it didn't solve user problems. So he created this product, even though he obsessed over it, even though he thought it was a great idea, it didn't work because it didn't solve the problem. He didn't talk to enough users, he didn't implement feedback, he didn't collect sufficient data. That was 5 years ago. 3 weeks ago, he launched Limelight, which is his new business. And he says, I'm doing it differently this time. And the difference is he's building in public. He's talking to a lot more people within the ICP. He's launched quickly and iterating, speaking with brands, buyers, investors, and an advisory team of creators. So he's doing things differently. You can take a look at his post and see what he's done. But his takeaway is don't chase perfection. Study, listen, learn, ship, and improve. Do it fast. So then I want to share this article from Raymond Kim, who starts off by saying, So we shut Inkly down in February. I'm sure this is really painful for him to write. He says, frankly, I felt like a failure, a huge L. I'm sure he poured a ton into Inkly, and it hurts. It hurts not to be successful. It's personal. And he says, they try to do everything right. We listen to conventional wisdom, or at least try to, talking to your customers, getting feedback, sell before building, move fast and break things. And that is what people would recommend, but it still didn't work. And so he says, I learned a lot, like a lot. And so I get asked, what's the biggest lesson you learned? This one stands out. Distribution is greater than execution is greater than idea. And this sort of ties back to the Zapier lesson where Wade, the CEO of Zapier, said, we thought about distribution from the very beginning, and that's what a lot of founders ignore. He says, first-time founders focus on ideas, second-time founders focus on execution, and third-time founders focus on distribution. So if he were going to do it again, he would take his time learning and talk to as many people as possible, write loose theories and share with others constantly, slowly build a small but mighty community, do things for free and get feedback, talk to your target ICP on what challenges they face and what might help, build a network of VCs, founders, advisors, and creators, and stay close to other founders and learn together. So that's it. It's about really understanding your prospects really well and what their needs are and getting that feedback and making sure you can fill it, and then fill it and make sure you're building a tight network in order to make you successful. Like just the basic best practices may not work, but relationships do work. So focusing on relationships, real relationship you have with your prospects, getting their feedback, understanding what they really need, and then relationships within your network to make sure you have a strong foundation to grow from. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you tomorrow.